Here is China. The reason why we're looking at this map is that I want to show you that China is in deep trouble. I want you to have a clear picture in your mind because all the other information in this video and in my new video will be directly related to this map. We have Obama activating the missile defense shield in South Korea, in Taiwan, then we have missile defense shield in Japan and in the Sea of Japan. To prevent an attack on China, China is placing all kinds of missiles and missile defense systems on the South China Sea island. We have 172,000 cargo ships in China. Some of those cargo ships can easily be converted to warships. China will use missile defense systems on those cargo ships. China is teaming up with Russia. Those two countries are working together on creating their own missile defense shield. When we have the biggest NATO military drills, military training, and military hardware movement on the land, water, and in the air, we have Obama activating the missile defense shields in the United States, in Israel, in Poland, in Romania, in the Sea of Spain, and we have the US radars in Norway and in Turkey. Then we have missile defense systems on ships in the Baltic Sea and in the Black Sea. When we have the conflict escalating in the Ukraine on the border with Crimea, the stage is set for global conflict. Big changes are coming to Russia, especially after the 18th of September 2016. Very similar situation to a military coup in Turkey will take place in Russia after the 18th of September. All this might lead to a full-scale war in Ukraine, in Crimea. Also, it might lead to a full-scale war in the South China Sea. And as a result, this situation might lead to a dollar collapse and total destruction of the US economy. As always, Breaking News TV YouTube channel will keep you updated. What we're witnessing is that it looks like Illuminati is pushed into the corner and Illuminati is desperate to start a World War III against Russia and China. First sign is that we have a deadly virus outbreak in Russia. Second sign is that it looks like the Illuminati has started using HARP on Russia and China. In recent weeks, we had a crazy weather and flooding in multiple cities in Russia and in China. Thunderstorms and strong winds in China forced 7.2 million people from their homes and damaged 18,000 houses. This information clearly indicates that WW3 will start very soon because Illuminati has started using its most strategic asset against Russia and China. An earthquake was shaking the eastern Ukrainian city, Mariupol, 4.8 magnitude earthquake, which had a depth of 10 kilometers. What a coincidence! What a surprise! Where the earthquake in Ukraine took place, there is one of the biggest European nuclear power plants. This nuclear power plant is very close to Russian so-called separatists, and this nuclear power plant is very close to Crimea, where WW3 is about to break out. I want you to remember that Illuminati has started using HARP on Russia and China. The provocations of using HARP on Russia and China can easily lead where Russia and China will use an MP attack on the US. Why do you think that the US is preparing like crazy for tsunami? One of the reasons is that Russia can use its strategic nuclear tsunami torpedo, which create up to 200 meters tsunami waves from here and from here. There is no way that the United States can stop the Russian nuclear tsunami torpedo. Now, please pay close attention to what I'm going to say. Russia is developing a tsunami torpedo that could wipe out US coastal cities by creating up to 200 meters tsunami waves. At the same time, we have huge tsunami drills in the United States. Is this a coincidence? I don't think so. I want you to keep in mind that Illuminati can use HARP on Russia and China. On the other hand, Russia and China can use EMP attacks or tsunami torpedoes on the United States. The Status 6 delivery system would be a new version of the T-15 tsunami torpedo that would be 24 meters long, 1.5 meters wide, and would weigh 40 tons, capable of delivering 100 megaton warhead that would make it twice as powerful as the most powerful nuclear device ever detonated. I am talking about the Soviet Tsar bomb, which had only 57 megatons. Hiroshima was only 15 kilotons. The Russian tsunami torpedo is 100 megatons. 15 kilotons versus 100 megatons. Just remember, 1 megaton is equal to 1000 kilotons. That means the Russian nuclear tsunami torpedo is 6,666 times more powerful than Hiroshima nuclear bomb. Keep in mind that most of the US cities and industrial centers are all along the coastline, which makes them extremely vulnerable to torpedo-based attacks, be it tsunami bomb or the Status 6 system. Just as in the case of the Iskander-M or the Sarmat ECBM, the depth and speed of the Status 6 tsunami torpedo would make it impossible for interception. How would you shoot it down, that tsunami torpedo, which is very deep underwater? This is another great example to prove this point. China is preparing to begin building a super secure version of the internet. The internet will broadcast from space. Why would China need an internet being broadcasted from space? In a case of a big tsunami caused by some type of a nuclear tsunami torpedo, the internet cables would be destroyed, and China won't be able to sell so much of its stuff to the world if there was no internet connection. The creation of a joint missile defense system of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization is possible in the near future. South Korea and the United States announced they agreed to deploy the joint missile defense system into South Korea to counter North Korea's missile threat. Unilateral buildup of missile defense systems could harm stability in the world, while one country cannot ensure its own safety at the expense of other states. Russia and China will hold their first joint computerized missile defense drills. The new Putin's program for developing the defense industrial sector will focus on providing new tools to Russian defense enterprises and providing them with new equipment. The Russian government will allocate 1 trillion rubles or 15.6 billion of US dollars for the development of the domestic defense industry. The Russian government has approved a new version of the defense program for developing the defense industrial sector in Russia. This defense program is large and is designed for perspective to protect Russia's national interests. Financing in the amount of 1 trillion rubles is intended for this program. This is a large sum of money not only for Russia, but this is a quite big amount of money in general being spent on the defense of any country. When the buildup of the military and boosting military activity of NATO close to Russian border violates the norms of the international law, when a large-scale field exercise of the air defense units of Russia's eastern military district, which has started in the Khabarovsk, Primorsky, Transbaikal, Kamchatka, in the Republic of Buryatia, in the Amur, Sakhalin, Jewish autonomous regions. Those drills involve more than 3,000 troops and 500 units of different equipment. More than 3,000 servicemen and about 500 units of military and special equipment will be used in the complex tactical drills in 10 regions. During the field exercise, the Russian troops will practice putting battlefield air defense units on so-called hair trigger alert, repelling attacks of the imaginary enemy's sabotage, as well as passing through a contaminated piece of land. Further expansion of NATO alliance, the approach of NATO military infrastructure to Russian borders creates a threat to the Russia's national security. In an attempt to discourage NATO from further buildup of troops in Eastern Europe, Russia's military has announced plans for more than 2,000 air, sea and land exercises over the summer of 2016. The military program includes dozens of large-scale maneuvers and anti-terror drills, at the same time when NATO is also carrying out its own exercises in Eastern Europe. Russia's defense minister said that those military drills would be carried out until the end of October, with 9 of them involving partnerships with foreign countries, including Belarus and Mongolia. Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu said that training period would be intensive. Many of you left a comment under many of my videos asking a question when WW3 will start. The main reason why the World War III has not started yet in Ukraine or in the South China Sea is that Russia and China are playing the wild card against the United States elite, which is the gun control issue inside the United States. In simple terms, if the United Nations were to try to implement a martial law inside the United States, for instance, let's imagine there was 1 million of UN troops inside the US major cities. Initially, I thought there was only 100 million guns inside the US that belonged to the United States citizens. I was surprised when Steve Quayle mentioned in one of his videos that inside the US there are around 300 million guns that belong to the US citizens. Okay, so let's imagine the following scenario. We have something like 1 million of the United Nations troops trying to control from 40 to 80 million people armed to their teeth. This is the main weakness of the US elite, and this is the main reason why the war against Russia or China has not started yet. Russia and China can play this wild card against the US in a way that it will diminish the US elite's power to a level where the US elite will be put in the corner. Just try to imagine the following scenario. During a major crisis inside the US, all the United Nations troops would be destroyed. Then, who would be the next target of the very angry people? The answer is very simple. The elite inside the US. The elite who is orchestrating all this mess around the world would be the next target. And they know that. The most recent example was a military coup in Turkey. But in Turkey, people did not have 300 million guns in their hands. Instead, those people were trying to overthrow Erdogan with sticks and stones. When hacked emails of ex-NATO general confirmed that NATO pushed to provoke a conflict with Russia. I quote the email. "We will probably be at war this summer. If we are lucky, the war will not be nuclear." These strange emails are the clear signs that a big change, or I should say shift, in the global control system is coming. That shift will affect everyone's way of living, especially of people who live inside the US. Russia has zero trust in NATO and believes that the alliance is preparing to go to war against Russia. If it comes to a new big conflict between Russia and NATO, Putin won't fight it on Russian soil. When the talk of war is everywhere, Russian citizens stocking up on essential supplies, preparing for war. As fears of NATO conflict with Russia increasing, Russian citizens across the country are stocking up on essential supplies like salt, matches, rice and buckwheat in preparation for war. Older generations of Russians know exactly what the build-up to a war looks like, and the signs around the world indicate of a serious problems approaching that cannot be simply ignored any longer. Vladimir Putin recently fired 50 of his top commanders. Similar maneuvers we were witnessing in Turkey when the military coup took place ahead of possible war with Syria. The beginning of war was prevented at the last minute. There appears to be a variety of actions being undertaken by both East and West in anticipation of a large-scale conflict. Putin is cleaning up the Russian system of people who work inside Russia and hold very high positions. Putin is trying to get rid of those people who work against Russian interests. In simple terms, Putin is getting rid of fifth column. Watch my new video on Putin's fight against Illuminati inside Russia. As always, check the link below this video. We are working really hard to report real news to you. Unfortunately, 80% of our videos are not advertiser friendly. That means we do not get any financial support from YouTube. Use any debit or credit card to donate $1, €1 or £1 through PayPal. Also, we want to say thank you to you all for your donations. Thank you for supporting Breaking News TV YouTube channel. When we have John Kerry saying that get ready for borderless world, we have security fences being built at unprecedented speed at the border with Russia in Ukraine, Estonia, Latvia and Norway. It seems that all those countries bordering on European side with Russia are building security fences in the name to protect them from immigrants coming from Syria. Let me ask you, what immigrants coming from Syria? There was something like less than 100 immigrants crossing that border in the last 6 months. All this goes much deeper than immigrants. One reason for building these walls along borders with Russia is the deadly virus outbreak in Russia. Check my new video below in the description box. Authorities in Norway have decided to build a fence at the only checkpoint on the border with Russia in a bid to prevent a new wave of immigrants crossing. Baltic states have begun building an enormous 250-mile fence along Europe's eastern border with Russia in a desperate bid to hold back the immigrant influx. Latvia has built a fence on its border with Russia in order to protect against illegal immigrants entering the European Union. I wonder why those governments are spending hundreds and hundreds of millions of US dollars on the border security where there is very low number of immigrants from Syria crossing here. Great Ukrainian Wall. Kiev plans to spend 200 million US dollars on Russian border defense. It looks like those countries are building those fences in the place where World War III is about to start.